Hey everybody, we are live. How is it going on this Monday? Let me get a drink. Give everybody a second to get on here. We'll see. I know it takes a while to get everybody notified. I actually think that we are going to do something a little bit different than I normally do my lives. Just because I feel like there's like a lot of anxiety going on, maybe a lot of heaviness, and maybe even a lot of cloudiness in in your mind, or a lot of thoughts going on. So we're going to do something a little bit different. So I hope that's cool. And it's just to help us, ease into the live, but also to kind of help you if you are feeling a little bit anxious, if you are having anxiety, and if you are feeling a little bit cloudy in your head. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I just wanted to take this opportunity to kind of clear that out, because it can be difficult to go throughout your day with that. So I wanted to do that. I hope that that's okay with everybody. If you're on, jump on and say hello. If you're watching the replay, let me know that you're watching the replay. Say hello, ask your questions. I'd love to answer them if you have them later on. In case you are new to me, I know that we have some brand new members. My name is Angela. I am a breakthrough coach. I help women break through sexual trauma so that you can become the badass warrior goddess within. And I do this by using NLP techniques, timeline therapy, gene keys, and human design, and just my own experience of healing through sexual trauma. And I am certified. In case you don't know that, I have certifications and stuff like that, but I still believe that experience is the number one key to understanding and knowing how this stuff works. So if you are new, welcome. I'm excited for you to be here. If you are new, just say, hey, that you're new so that everybody can welcome you. I'm excited for you to be here. I'm excited to see how this can help you. What I'm going to do right now, and again, I know that you guys are expecting content, so I think we're just going to take about 5 minutes to kind of clear out some anxiety and clear out some cloudiness in your head. Let me know if this helps you and if you feel clearer afterwards. So we're just going to take a few minutes to do that before we get started on the content again. If this is not something that you want to do, then feel free to fast forward if you're watching the replay. And we are live, then, just enjoy it. So go ahead and close your eyes. Please, if you're going to do this and you're in the car or operating equipment, please don't do that. So if you are going to do that, or if you are driving, don't watch this right now. You go ahead and watch the replay. But go ahead and close your eyes, and I'm going to close my eyes too, and just kind of get comfy where you are. Good. And just take a second and go ahead and close your eyes, like I said. And go ahead and take a deep breath. And when you take a deep breath, make sure it's coming from your stomach and not from your chest. Go ahead, deep breath in. And let it out. Good. Start to feel the stress melt away. The tension from your shoulders just kind of melt away. Feel the thoughts, the anxiety, the cloudiness just start to melt away. All the way from the crown of your head, down to your shoulders, to your stomach, to your pelvic bone, to your knees, to your toes, and out your body. Good. Take a deep breath in and let it out. Feeling even more stress melt away, anxiety, cloudiness, all melt away, starting from your crown to your shoulders, to your chest, to your stomach, pelvic bone, thighs, knees, shins, to to your toes, all the way out into the ground. Just let the energy run through you. Embrace any sensations that you might feel. Good, good. And one more deep breath in. And let it out. This time you feel everything that you don't need, that's not serving you, completely melt away from your body and into the ground. All the way from the crown to your neck, to your shoulders, to your chest, stomach, pelvic bone, hips, thighs, knees, shins, toes, all the way out to the ground. Embracing any sensations, knowing that you're still control and safe. Knowing that it's okay to feel whatever it is that you're feeling. And right now, it's okay for you to be present and focus on the content and anything that resonates with you here. Good, and when you're ready, go ahead and come back into the room and come back to now. Okay, perfect. And you can go ahead and open your eyes. Good, okay, so I'm feeling a little bit different. I've been practicing tapping into energy and how I can best serve you guys, and that might be a little woo-woo for some of you, and that's okay. It's not anything crazy. It's just to help me serve you the best way that I possibly can. And today we are actually going to talk about how to put yourself first as a survivor, which I believe is really important. And it's important because even if you aren't a survivor, you have all these odds really stacked up against you, right? You might have a partner, maybe you have children, maybe you have a job or a business, and you have things to do, right? Because that's only part of it, because then you probably have to go to the grocery store, and around this time of year, Christmas shopping, depending on if you celebrate the holiday or not. Maybe you have kids at home right now. Maybe you have to wrap presents. Maybe you're dealing with family stress, and then you have laundry and dishes and cleaning the bathroom and vacuuming and sweeping, right? You have all this other stuff that is involved, and putting yourself first feels like a chore, feels like a mission, feels like if you put yourself first, then you're not going to be able to get all of these other things done, right? Like doing the laundry or taking care of your kids or working on your business or going to your job, right? And then you feel like when you do have time, or when you do have alone time, you're probably exhausted and you don't want to go work out or meditate or read or take a bath or anything like that, right? You probably just want to sit in front of the TV and just veg out and do nothing because you're probably exhausted. And I get that. I 100% get that. I know that. I have a 2-year-old that refuses to sleep in her bed right now, as we've transitioned from crib to, big girl bed. It's been very interesting. And then plus her genetic disorder with the seizures and stuff. It's just been very, very interesting. And so I get it. I understand that putting yourself first is probably the least of your concerns. And I understand that. And I know that there is plenty of information out there that is telling you you can't give from an empty cup. You can't do the things that you need to do. You can't be 100% for your family if you're not 100%, right? I mean, like, we all know that information. It's all out there. I'm not going to sit here and be like, you can't give from an empty cup. We all know that. But the reality is that we still have to deal with a balancing act, right? We still have to deal with, I don't know how to even put myself first with that, right? With this part of it. When you add being a survivor, there's this part of it, right? Where you probably are still buried in shame, and shame is a passed down problem that we give to our children that we don't even realize that we're giving to our children. Shame is very much passed down, and they didn't even realize it until the last couple of months, when I really started to read into it and dive deep into it, and realizing it that yes, we pass it down. We pass it down because we usually carry the shame from whatever shame was passed down from us, and then it just kind of trickles down. That's what happens. And what is shame? I am wrong. I am bad. I am, a terrible person. And we carry those. And when you truly believe that, what happens? Other bad cycles repeat, right? Other cycles of shame repeat. And depending on how bad it is, then, things like sexual abuse do continue. And I know that that's like another topic for another day, but really sexual abuse is just a repeated cycle, right? A repeated cycle of someone living in hell. And so in order for that person to feel powerful and get their needs met, what do? They lash out in that way to do that. That comes from shame. Not only do you have to deal with shame, you also have to deal with the feeling of being unworthy, which shame and being unworthy are highly connected. But we can dive into that later. But you also have to deal with those things of, I am not good enough to put myself first. I am not worthy enough to put myself first. I'm not worthy enough to receive. I'm not good enough to receive. I'm not good enough to have good things in my life. So there's all these slew of things that you have to deal with when you're also a survivor. And depending on when it happened, if it only, and I don't want to say if it only, but if it occurred one time, there's a possibility that now that you have PTSD, right? And so now you're dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, right? Which means that you deal with flashbacks and memories, possibly anxiety and depressive episodes. Well, if you were a child and it was reoccurring, now you're dealing with complex PTSD, where we're dealing with outbursts of rage, outbursts of sadness, depressive episodes, anxiety, just things that you are almost like a walking time bomb. Now, you may also be like that with PTSD, but I feel like when it's reoccurring, there's a different dynamic with the reoccurrence that's happening, right? Because you had a constant time in your life where you felt completely unsafe and unsupported, and it was probably happening by someone that you trusted. And so now we have all of this damage that is going on. So not only do you kind of have this little batch playing against you, but you also have this batch against you. Now, before you're like, oh my God, this is so crazy. I don't want to know that I have all these things against me. The thing is that the more you are aware, the more you're going to be able to equip yourself with the right tools and resources to not only heal and recover, but also to put yourself first. I'm a firm believer that things happen that change the rest of your life from the ages of 0 to 7. Now, things happen before that get passed down to us, but I'm specifically talking about 0 to 7. If you had parents or a caregiver that did not necessarily provide you the best care, not someone that you can depend on, not someone that you can trust, then you also have another slew of problems that you might be working with. And I want to bring this up because it helps you understand where you might be at and why you really struggle with putting yourself first. So, and these are actually called attachment styles. Now, before I go on, I want to let you know I'm not a therapist, so please don't feel like I'm diagnosing you. I did go to school to get my master's degree, but I don't believe that diagnosing people that come into therapy to get help is necessarily in their best interest for everybody. And I believe that because if you diagnose someone and they're trying to come in there and get help, then that potentially becomes their reality instead of us just helping them. And I understand why it's necessary. people have to get paid, they do it. But I decided that that's not how I wanted the energy exchange to be. I wanted to be able to help without that diagnosis becoming their reality. So, but I do have this book. It's called the Complex PTSD Workbook, and it's been really helpful. So I want to point out attachment styles. Okay, and attachment style is how your caregiver responded when you were a child. If you had a healthy attachment style or a healthy attachment to your caregiver, then they were probably pretty attentive to your needs. They may have not been perfect because no parent is, but they were attentive. They did support you. You did feel like you can turn to them and trust them. However, there are certain attachment styles that you might be working with that I want to bring to your attention that stops you or prevents you from necessarily putting yourself first. Okay, and the first one is insecure ambivalent. And the insecure ambivalent child has grown up with an inconsistent primary caregiver who is at times highly responsive and perceptive, but can also be intrusive and invasive. The child cannot depend upon the caregiver for predictable attunement and connection, and consequently develops uncertainty and anxiety. Insecure ambivalent adults tend to feel overly dependent and suffer from abandonment anxiety and an overall sense that relationships are unreliable. Okay, so, and how does this prevent you from putting yourself first? What this does is that you become overly dependent on somebody, that you forget to even think about your needs and what it is that you need to do for your life to feel good, to be happy, to feel whole. You're completely dependent on that person, where if they up and left, you had no idea, what you would do with your life, maybe how you would support yourself financially, those types of things. I want you to be aware of this, because this absolutely does prevent you from putting yourself first, because you're putting the other person's needs completely before your own, because you might have had a parent or a primary caregiver that was not necessarily attentive to your needs all the time when you needed them to be attentive. Okay, moving on to insecure avoidant. The insecure avoidant child has grown up with a distant or disengaged caregiver who is repeatedly emotionally unavailable and rejecting. As a result, this child adapts by avoiding closeness, disconnecting emotionally, and becoming overly self-reliant. Insecure avoidant adults tend to have grown up to be dismissive of their own and other people's emotions and facing challenges with when their partners long for a deeper and more intimate connection. So how does this stop you from putting your needs first? Well, it says right there that you have a disconnection to closeness and disconnecting emotionally and becoming overly self-reliant. Just because you're overly self-reliant doesn't mean that that's a healthy thing. It's actually a trauma response, because you don't feel like you have anybody that you can depend on in your life. Not only that, it means that if you don't know how to get close to anybody else, you definitely don't know how to get close to yourself. And that means that you really don't know what your needs are. You really don't even know how to put yourself first. You don't really know how to take care of yourself and your needs on the inside, right? It's very easy to go find a job and find an apartment or a house and make sure you have transportation and do the mundane things every single day. Of course, you know how to do that. What I'm talking about are the needs on the inside, so that you feel like you are getting your emotional needs met, so that you are feeling loved by yourself, right? That's what I'm talking about. And having this attachment style completely prevents you from that. Okay, the next attachment style is disorganized. And this is the most disturbing attachment setting results in a primary disorganized attachment style. This child has grown up with a primary caregiver whose behavior is overwhelming, chaotic, and or abusive. The caregiver is a source of alarm and confusion, resulting in a paradox related to the child's biological drive to seek closeness from the very source of the terror that they are trying to escape. This is often referred to a fright without solution, an unsolvable dilemma for the child. Disorganized adults tend to rely upon impulsive or aggressive behavior to manage uncomfortable emotions. Relationships interactions can mimic the abuse they experienced during childhood with caregivers. They might act abusive themselves or choose abusive partners because it feels familiar. So again, this prevents you from putting your needs first because you're completely disorganized about what it means to have your needs met, number one. But number two, because that's all you've ever seen all your life, you act in that way or you choose relationships that mimic that. And that's not meeting your needs. That's not putting yourself first. That's not loving yourself. And that prevents you from being able to do that. Now, for me, all three of these kind of resonated to me. However, I do believe that the disorganized one was one of the most prevalent attachment styles that I had in my life, because I do remember growing up and an outburst type of situation where things were chaotic. And, of course, in my situation where I was being abused, of course, it was by somebody that I trusted and that I knew that was a primary caregiver. So, of course, it caused disorganization in your ability to get your needs met. So there are some other things that I also want to talk about that were in this book. And these are also connected to complex PTSD, and these are avoidance symptoms. And that's exactly what it sounds like. You do whatever it takes to avoid the pain that may have happened in your life, right? So you do whatever it takes to avoid, whether that's, turning to drugs and alcohol, being a workaholic. You do whatever it is that you can do to distract yourself from feeling and dealing with the pain. Another one is intrusive symptoms, and this is where you are re-experiencing the trauma. This sets you off with unexplainable rage, sadness, and fear. And a lot of us have definitely experienced that, but it's actually a symptom of complex PTSD. And you may also deal with depressive symptoms where you are just buried in shame and unworthiness of the abuse or trauma that had taken place in your life. Why am I telling you these things? I'm telling you these things because putting yourself first means that you are going to deal with trauma. That means that you are going to become aware of how the pain has affected your life. It does mean that you are going to have to look at yourself in the mirror and really be able to read that reflection. And that's hard. That's not easy. And putting yourself first means that you might also have to battle these attachment styles and these symptoms. It's not easy. It's not easy to deal with these things plus the trauma. The only way to recover, the only way to heal is to start putting yourself first, your needs first, your safety first, your security first, your protection first. The only way to start doing that is to become aware, right? You have to be aware of how your trauma has impacted your life. You have to be aware of the long-term effects of what it's done and what you're dealing with now. Because a lot of us are dealing with unexplainable rage, unexplainable sadness, unexplainable fear, unexplainable anxiety, unexplainable depression, unexplainable autoimmune diseases, unexplainable cancers, where they came from, right? All of this is connected to trauma. And you might be thinking, well, how on earth is all that stuff connected to trauma? Well, it's because it puts your body into I totally lost my train of thought. It puts your body into a state of flight or freeze, right? And so you are building stress into your body, and normally your other part of your system is supposed to take over so that you calm down. But if you have lived in a constant state of fear or trauma, then your body does not know how to calm down, and then it does things like eat itself so that it can survive. And that's where we have issues like cancer and autoimmune diseases. It is highly connected to trauma. So the more that you can put your body into a calmer state, a more peaceful state, the more likely you are to have a good immune system and stay healthy, but you are also less likely, of course, to develop things like cancer and autoimmune diseases and things like that. And that is what you want to try to achieve here. Now, when I work one-to-one with my clients, we do let go of trauma and other wounds a lot quicker so that we can put your body into a state of relaxation, into a state of calmness, so that you are able to process trauma better, so that you are able to look and observe at yourself from a different state of mind. Because when you are still trapped in the trauma, you're like this, right? But when you're able to let go of the trauma, you're like this. And now you can see things from a bird's eye view, and giving you an opportunity to take radical responsibility and create radical acceptance in your life from the awareness of letting go with trauma and other core wounds. So if you're interested in working with me one-to-one, just let me know. I can reach out to you. But let's get into how to actually put yourself first. You want to be aware of these things. Okay, I want you to be aware of the attachment styles, whether you're insecure, ambivalent, insecure, avoidant, or disorganized, or if you have avoidant symptoms or intrusive symptoms or depressive symptoms. I want you to be aware. Not because I want to freak you out and diagnose you that you have complex PTSD or PTSD. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to help you, let you know that if you can't figure out why you can't put yourself first, these are definitely reasons why. So in order to put yourself first, I want you to start creating healthy habits. And you might be thinking, oh, here we go about the habits. Habits are one of the things that create structure in our life, okay? Structure is one of the most important things that we can create in our lives. And it is because whether or not we like to believe it, humans like structure. Humans like consistency. We like it where we do things and we don't have to think about it. Well, how do we do things and we don't have to think about it? Habits. And how do we develop habits? Through routines. And I'm talking about morning routines, nightly routines, things that are going to help you put yourself first, help you put your body into a state of calmness and stillness so that you can heal, so that you can respond to life, so that you feel good, so that you do give from a full cup. So how, and you might be thinking, well, I don't have a morning routine. I don't have a nightly routine. The thing is that you have routines. You probably just don't realize that you have routines. And your routines probably started from when you're a child, right? You probably woke up, ate breakfast, and then brushed your teeth after breakfast, and then got dressed, and then got your backpack and went off to school, right? That is a routine. Whether or not we recognize it as a routine, it is a routine. It's something that we do every single day to get us ready, okay? So now let's say maybe you get ready for work. Maybe you get up, you start the coffee, you get in the shower, you go get your coffee, you, brush your teeth, put on your makeup, do your hair, and then get dressed, finish your coffee, get the kids to school, and then you're off to work, right? That's a routine. Even when you cook dinner, that is a routine. You might you might decide what it is that you're having for dinner, and then you look at the recipe, and then the recipe tells you, you boil the noodles, so you get the water hot, and then you put the noodles in, right? And then you follow the steps. That is a routine. And it's easy to do it, and you do it without thinking, because it becomes a habit. So if you're catching on to what I'm saying, is that the best way for you to have healthy habits is to have routines. So your healthy habits are going to look very different from somebody else's. And it's because we have different needs. It's because our safety might look different. It's because our security might look different. So it might be completely different for everybody, and that's okay. For me, I wake up in the morning and I work out, and then I take a shower, and then I journal, and then I do breath work, and then I meditate. And I try to do that every single day. And that's what works for me, right? If I don't do that routine or major bits of that routine, I feel like crap all day long. And it is because I didn't put myself first. It is because I didn't go to meet my needs and do what I needed to do before my daughter is on a 2-year-old rampage, or, before I have to feed the dogs or take care of the house or do these things or even work. And I love to work. But if I don't do this routine, I don't feel good for most of the day, the whole day. So there will be some trial and error with it. But what I recommend and what I want you to do is that if you watch the live that I had the last week about your word for 2021, what I want you to do is find something that matches your word, right? So if your word is confidence for the year, then what can you do every single morning? One thing, what can you do every single morning that will help you build confidence in your life? Maybe it's an affirmation. Maybe it's a specific affirmation that you say to yourself in the mirror over and over for 5 minutes or whatever it is. Maybe your word for the year is gratitude. And so every single morning you journal in your journal about how grateful you are to be up, be alive, breathing, your bed, how warm it is, the AC, depending on where you're at, water, coffee. You just make this whole list, and you do that every single morning, right? And that's it. That's all you have to do. And I know that there's this, like, the rule of 21 days creates a habit. And I disagree with that. And I disagree with that because if you have never developed any type of healthy habits before in your life, we are talking about so many years of unlearning habits to create this one habit, right? That's why I don't agree with getting rid of your habits. You want to add to your habits. You want to add to your habits. And eventually what will happen is the negative or unhealthy habits will disappear from your life. So start with one habit. That's it. One habit, even if it's for the year. And eventually you're going to feel like, I've really got this. I really enjoy journaling every single morning. I really love this affirmation every single morning. Now I'm going to add something else to my morning. Maybe you're going to meditate. Maybe you're going to work out. Maybe you're going to do whatever it is that aligns with your word, because that works for you, right? And you're going to add that. And now that you've done this one thing to your routine, now you're going to add this other thing to your routine. But only when you've done it consistently, only when you feel good about adding something else to your routine. And even if that means that you only do the one thing every single day for the entire year, that is a win. And you know what happens when you create these routines and you have these habits? You have self-discipline. Self-discipline comes from routines and habits, right? It is routines equals habits equals self-discipline, okay? And don't rely on motivation. Motivation is one of the most fickle emotions that we have in our lives. Do not depend on it, because it will fail you every single time. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't fall off the bandwagon. Of course you're going to. It's part of building a habit. It's part of building routines, but it is about consistency. It is about doing these things every single day to make you feel good, so that you are putting yourself first. Putting yourself first means that you are recovering, that you are healing. When you're putting yourself first, it also means that you're ready to deal with the trauma that is coming up. And I know that you have these odds, right? These odds that we talked about that might be stacked up against you. However, if you don't want to work with someone one-to-one, one of the best things you can do to start healing right now without working with someone and without making that huge investment is to start putting yourself first through habits and routines, through self-discipline. You build self-discipline through routines and habits. That's what happens. The more consistently you do things, the more you make it so you're not thinking about what you're doing, it's just automatic, like when you're driving a car, right? And you get on autopilot and you're not thinking about anything, and all of a sudden you have arrived. Well, that's because it's a habit. That's because it's a routine. That's because it is in your second nature. That is what you're trying to achieve. You are trying to make it so that you don't have to think about putting yourself first. You just automatically do it. And that helps you recover and heal. That helps you put yourself first, because as cliche as it sounds, you really cannot give from an empty cup. You really cannot heal. You cannot recover if you are not putting yourself first, whatever that looks like, because it is going to look like, it is going to be different for you and for me. And if we want to get into a different side of things, depending on what your human design chart looks like, I'm looking for something, I'm sorry. Depending on what your human design chart and your gene key chart looks like, you might have different needs that you really need to be aware of, right? Like I'm a 1 to 3. So that means that I need alone time and movement in my life. That's why running is one of the best things that I can do, because number one, I'm by myself, I'm outside, and I'm moving my body. And that is something that I do for my clients one-to-one. We do go over your human design chart. We do go over your gene key chart, because it does help you get to know yourself better. It does help you open up your heart more, because let's face it, we all block our hearts after pain because we don't ever want to feel that again. But what we don't realize is that our logical mind leads us further and further from the right thing that we're supposed to be doing, right? Your logical mind is ran by your ego, and your ego wants to keep you safe, because ego and fear go together. And the best way to deal with your ego and fear is to integrate it. And that means acknowledge it and see it and hear it and let it know that it's going to be okay and that it's safe. And that's what I work with my clients with one-to-one as well, right? It's all about integration. It's all about knowing who you are. It's all about healing. And it's all about being able to let go of your trauma and core wounds effortlessly, so that you are in a position to be the observer, so that you are in a position to radically accept and take radical responsibility for your life. So that's what it is about. That's what I have for you today. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them. I want to know that you're watching the replay. I want to know that you caught this. Did I say if you have any questions? I'm pretty sure I said that, but just let me know that you're watching the replay. Thank you so much for being here. Let me know if this helped you. Next week, I am going to go live one more time before the new year, and we are going to go live on goal setting. You might be rolling your eyes right now, but I do goal setting a little bit different than everybody else. And so I want you to go ahead and jump on for that, because I really want you to be ready for next year, no matter what happens, right? I know that a lot of people have put all this bad juju on 2020. And the reality is that for most of us, this was a normal year. It was fucking hard, and people have to deal with fucking hard years, whether it's 2020 or not. So you can decide, are you going to allow the same juju to run into 2021, or are you going to stop it right here, right now? And you have the power to do that, because you are a powerful human being. You have to decide whether or not you're powerful, right? We are leaving the victim mindset and the old paradigm, right? We're leaving it there. It can stay there. We don't want it anymore. We want you to have your power. I want you to have your power. I want you to feel good about going into 2021, because you have the right to that, and you are allowed to have that. So I hope you enjoyed that. We went off on a little tangent, but I hope you enjoyed the content. I hope that it was helpful. I hope that you have a great day. And again, if you have any questions, let me know that you have questions. Let me know that you're watching the replay. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you later. And I hope that the little meditation at the beginning really helped you release some anxiety and that fogginess that was going on in your head. And even let me know if you were feeling that. I would love to know. I would love to have some validation about, you know, that was really in your energy and you were really feeling that. I would love to know that. All right. I am Angela, and I am the founder of AsFreeAsYouSee and this wonderful group. Please feel free to support each other and love on each other. I will see you around.